All right. So I don't know if you were here for when I was saying I'm going to start the show, Tara, but yeah, we'll just start here in a little minute or so.
All right, I'm going to get a Kleenex. Is that cool?
Right. Yeah. Somewhere that's green.
Don't start. I'm going to cry.
All right. Oh, let me pull up my notes.
Is that a Mushnick and Sons mask?
Yes, it is.
Nice.
All right, start off strong.
All right, here we go. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, wonderful. All right. Hello, hello. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here for I want you to watch this. And I'm muted apparently, so that's fun. Let me see. Great start. What a wonderful start.
What a great way to start our first live stream.
Oh, wonderful.
Take it from the top. Check the gate.
Do it again.
An auspicious start to
Back to
our
one, everyone.
wonderful-
Back to one. Safely back to one.
All right. Well, yes. Welcome to I Want You to Watch This. We are here on Twitch for the very first time. We've been doing this podcast for, well, me and Colin have been going on 4 years, I think,
Yeah.
off and on. Damn it. I'm still muted. Let me figure this damn thing out. Just when we thought we had things going.
I know. Can y'all hear other folks?
Yeah,
Or-
I can see the... Let's try this.
Yes, I can hear all of you. Thank you.
Can you hear
We
me?
all do a mic check. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Greg.
Okay.
Am I being heard? Okay, I'm up
Yep,
now.
I hear Craig as well.
Wonderful. Yay!
Yay.
We
Third
finally
time's a
did it.
charm.
Safely back
We
to one,
did
everyone. Places.
Oh, places.
Places.
Oh, places. Okay.
This again.
You are a podcaster. You are a podcaster.
Can you,
Okay.
can you hear
ready.
the theater in my voice that I know to respond with? Thank you, places.
Yeah.
Thank you, five. Thank you, five.
Thank you, five.
Okay. Can everyone still hear me? Are we all good? Are we
Yes.
all
Yes.
live in Wonderland? All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you once again for being here. Yeah, we're trying something new in the new year because fuck it, why not? Let's do it. So yeah, we all made it through 2020. We're here in 2021. And we are here to talk about one of my favorite movies, favorite movie musicals, favorite like just things ever. And it's Little Shop of Horrors.
Woo!
If you couldn't tell by our virtual backgrounds yet.
It's a favorite of mine as well. Like it's one of my favorite musicals, and I've heard from our special guest that it is his favorite film of all time.
Yeah, as you can tell from my special quarantine mask here, Mushnick and Sons. Do I have
Yeah.
permission to take off my mask? Are you guys comfortable with that? No.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
I
on
think we're
Zoom.
distant
We're on Zoom.
enough.
I think it's
I
okay.
think we're distant enough.
But I met this fine gentleman through his podcast, Movie Date Night, where I had the pleasure to be a part of the James Bond Fantasy League. So he is a co-host of Movie Date Night, a co-host of Friday is Game Night, and a co-host of Mortal Kombat. It's Gregory Me. Yay!
Welcome.
Thank you.
Suddenly, Gregory is recording beside you. You do need some makeup because we're on Zoom. Yes, we're on Zoom.
Right. I know normally we wouldn't need makeup, but here we are on Zoom. So yeah, Greg brought this movie to us. I mean, it was going to happen. It was going to happen eventually. So Greg was just excited to come on and be the first guinea pig in this new experiment of streaming. And so thank you for, going under the knife with us here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's my first procedure. I'm excited.
So how many times, Gregory, do you think you've seen this movie?
I
Just
don't
ballpark.
do calculus.
Just
Never tell him the odds, you know?
Like, I don't know how logarithms work, but it's something like that, you know?
Got it. Oh, it's an imaginary number, right?
Yeah. Like, okay, so my background let me just tell you the story for how I first saw this film. I first saw this film, it was like summer of 97 or something like that. And I was running downstairs, having grabbed a towel upstairs because, I'm having a pool party with friends. I run to the living room. My dad is watching the exact scene where it's Steve Martin looking into a guy's mouth, drilling. I'm like, what's that? Don't care. We're about to go play Marco Polo. Gone. 10 years later, I finally find this film like, that's that weird movie with the mouth. Oh, let's sit down and watch this. And then I fell in love.
What's that weird movie with the mouth? Because having watched this a lot as a kid, that's actually one of the foundational images I have of this movie is the shot inside the mouth. Yep.
Mhm.
Right. Which is like an amazing shot.
It is.
It is, and it's all the Frank Oz of this movie. This movie is just sings Frank Oz.
Right. And so I guess we should probably talk about what the movie's about. Which if you haven't seen it, like definitely see this. It's too late for all of you people who are on Twitch here already. All, 17 million of you. There you go. But yeah, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen this movie, like I cannot emphasize enough like how much you need to see this movie. It's wonderful. And the movie is about a, unassuming, young Rick Moranis who is living in Skid Row and is, an orphan. He works and lives in the flower shop that he works at with this very, caricaturistic Mr. Mushnick.
That's a word.
And he one day, as the song, as many of the songs tell us in the wonderful form of exposition, is outside of a flower shop one day with another caricature of Mr. Chang. And as a total eclipse of the sun happens, the plant arrives and changes Seymour's life forever, and changes the planet as we know it, which our epic movie scroll at the beginning alludes to. So yeah, let's talk about it. I think that this movie probably has one of the most exciting starts for a movie like ever. It has like the Star Wars like scroll at the beginning, but it actually is narrated with like this epic voice that's, on the 23rd day of December in a early year of a decade, not too long before our own, humanity encountered a dire threat to its very existence. And this threat came as such threats often do in the seemingly most innocent and unlikely of places.
Are you doing this from memory?
That was pretty good.
That was fantastic.
Yes. Fair warning. Yeah, a disclaimer to anyone listening right now. This episode has like at least two theater geeks in it. So if that's something that you're not into, I would say just run away now. But if it's
Turn back now. Turn back now.
because I actually played Audrey 2 in my college production of Little Shop of Horrors, so I could probably recite this movie back to front.
Well, we're going to ask for some singing.
I saw this movie, and I've seen this play quite a few times because I actually, while technical directing a theater in Southwest Denver, we hosted a high school's production of this. So I have loaded in and assembled the big old Audrey 2 plant. I ran the fly rail. I still remember my fly cues from Little Shop of Horrors. So certain songs I remember, like, oh, I have to fly this scream out right now, or oh, I have to bring in this backdrop. Or there's one which is really annoying, which is when Seymour is becoming famous and doing all the interviews, and he's like on the cover of the magazine. We had this magazine that was made out of cardboard, and so the thing had to fly in to be in for 2 seconds and fly back out, and it was so bloody arbor heavy because there was no way to like actually put enough weight on the batten to counterweight this thing. So I hated that cue more than anything.
That's probably with the meek shall inherit, like, you know,
yes,
shall inherit.
That's exactly the song. Yeah.
So Colin, how many actors did you give concussions by dropping that thing down so far?
Only three high school kids.
Oh my god, yeah, I love that, and I love that opening song. It tells you everything that you need to know to get you off on the right start. It's very Motown. It's very like just like doo-wop, and it's got like Tashina Arnold, Tisha Campbell, and Michelle Weeks. Like I think this is their first roles. At least I believe Tisha Campbell and Tashina Arnold. And there's like an interesting story where like Tashina Arnold talks about how like when Tisha Campbell got the role, she like was like, oh no, I'm bringing you with me, like you're coming with me. So I was like, that was a really cool story of like, oh yeah, no, like we're best friends. If one of us gets something, like we're both gonna go for it. And that happens later in their career too when they go to Martin.
Yep.
And so I just love that beginning, that little shop of horrors, little shop.
That was one of the first things I wrote down, is we come from this opening scroll into this awesome like doo-wop number, and immediately this Greek chorus that we have is just absolute fire. Like
right.
Everything they do, it slaps so hard.
The costumes, the hitting every note.
Oh, I love.
Oh my god, those dresses. Like those like little like they like raindrop dresses. Like they're like you know, they've got like just like the little
spaghetti straps,
thank you, and then they come out and poof at the bottom, and they look like a little raindrop shape,
and they're polka dotted and dead on. And I love it. Throughout each of the times the Greek chorus show up, they have a variation on each other's costumes. There's always one subtle difference between all three of them, and that's one of those things I love watching for, is like, what's going to be different in this one? Right?
Yeah. The costuming is just one part of like how fantastic the overall production design in this film is, because everything is so meticulous. It's like I wrote down like dingy beautiful as an aesthetic for this movie. It's got like a real cool mix of effects. We got like matte paintings and miniatures and like obviously puppets, because it's a movie that's directed by Frank Oz. I mean, it's got puppet work in this film that is unrivaled. But I mean, if it weren't just for the greatness of the songs and the greatness of performances, you could just look at this movie.
Yeah, I mean, Colin, your background there, the kind of tin ceiling detail that they have, right? Note to the production designers of Cats, right? Note to that production design team. That's how you do grungy beautiful, right? Like, why didn't you just reuse their set? Cats production team.
Yeah, no, it's wild going from one of the worst like movie musicals I've ever seen in my life to coming to this, which I'm like, oh god, this is exactly what we needed after that. Like,
this is your palate cleanser.
The taste of like cat shit and litter out of our mouths from that movie.
It's jellicle cat shit.
Oh
Hey
God,
guys,
I don't
I've
know
got a
what it
cat.
says, but it sounds worse.
I've got a cat in the room. You need to chill it with the negative cat speak right now.
They will scratch your eyes out, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you were saying, that production quality, it just goes throughout this movie, and it's so. And oddly, the movie that it reminds me of is Alien.
Yes.
Like that, the world like feels so very lived in a way that like. And this is obviously more theatrical, it's more of like a comedic type of movie, and so some of those elements are a little bit more like, caricaturized, but they do look it looks like a world, like it looks like you are immersed in this place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a touch of camp and a touch
Right.
of
Oh, a
genuine.
touch.
A touch, yeah, right. A touch of camp. No, my background, right? Just a smidge of camp.
Yeah.
Okay, it's got a smattering of camp, right? But then it also has this real genuine heart to it, right?
Mhm.
And so the fact that they're able to play both of those off in the design, in the songs, in the performances, like it's really astounding, right? That Audrey is a caricature, right? She's basically playing Marilyn Monroe's character in Some Like It Hot, right? Like I was like waiting for her to say the classic line about I always get the fuzzy end of the lollipop from that movie, right? Like she's like just barely almost says it, right? But it's still you feel for her, right? And it's still really genuine and moving. And so to be able to play that camp, heightened theatricality, over the top, but it's in a whole world, and that world is rooted in character. Note to cats. Note to cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is 100% gay camp. Like this is like a camp that is like so like lovingly rendered that you just like, you can tell that like, yes, it's meant to be like fun and funny, but it's also like a lot of people like were earnest about doing that, and so they actually put the work and the time and the love and the care into making it like, again, this very over the top thing, but still rooted in this very character driven emotionality.
Yeah, and I feel like a great example of the production design is this dog.
Thank you. Yes.
I can't figure out.
We were talking just before we started recording, and I said, like, is it just me, or like that dog in the Somewhere That's Green thing? Do you always think it's a puppet, and then you move, and you're like, oh my God, I moved.
So you think it's a puppet, then it moves, and then later when Audrey's packing up to go somewhere that's green, she's a stuffed animal version of the dog, and it's like that kind of repetition. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So well done.
I mean, while we're on Audrey and while we're on Somewhere That's Green, I just want to talk about Somewhere That's Green because it's probably my favorite. It's probably my favorite song in this show. It's kind of tied with Suddenly Seymour, but I think it is by far the best I Want song in musical theater. Because like that's a big deal in musicals. Is like a character has a song about like, oh, I want this, I want that, and Somewhere That's Green is such a perfect I Want song because it's so sadly beautiful. Like this downtrodden woman is just dreaming about a slightly lesser version of oppression. Like she wants to go from being, beaten up to being Donna Reed. Like she wants to like be expected to have dinner on the table at 6:01 and all of that. She's longing for this
enormous 12-inch screen.
Yes.
No, yeah, and like her expectations are like even still for her wildest dreams or low. She goes, not some fancy place like Levittown, just a little thing, like.
She wants a tract house. She does not want a Levittown house. Like,
right.
Not even going all the way to the suburbs.
Yeah, she wants frozen dinners, like
plastic on the furniture.
She begins by describing the house as a matchbox of our own.
Yeah.
Like just this little tract house with a chain link fence. And he's longing for this 1950s Leave It to Beaver aesthetic that never actually existed as much as Republicans want you to think it did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so kind of sadly beautiful. And what Ellen Greene does particularly with this song, and not as many people do all the time who have done it in other Broadway productions or off-Broadway productions, is to play this one pause right at the end, because the song climaxes with a picture out of Better Homes and Gardens magazine, and then it comes crashing down around her with the line, far from Skid Row, because the fantasy is over and now she's remembering, oh, I'm here in Skid Row. It's so perfectly beautiful when it's done with this little pause.
And that song describes the sights, it describes the flavors, the smell, that it smells like Pine Sol, right?
Mm-hmm.
That she's coveting, that she has a toaster. Like, wow, okay. Like, right? The 2D animated bird comes in, like
Snow White.
Snow White, right? It has like the sounds and the smells, and then you're right, Colin, it all comes crashing down. For those of you who are vocal performers, I do have a question about, there's something she does with her voice, and I think it has a term, but it's like that vocal catch that she does, the right, that the catch. What is that called? Do you know what that's called? It has
I probably should know,
be a name for it. But
yeah, okay, all right. I tried, like, it's not a glottal stop.
Yeah, I was like, glottal stop was literally the first thing that I thought of.
So listeners, maybe somebody knows, right?
And it's funny because she does it in not only in like her singing performance, but like I was like, Ellen Greene is fucking phenomenal, like amazing singer. And she does it like even when she's like talking, when Seymour introduces Audrey too, he's like, oh yeah, I named it after you. And she's like, me, and she does like this little like
the little
like
high
a little like squeak, and it's just like
so
her
cute.
like breathing in, but like that note that she does, it's like
a whistle note.
It's a very
note.
technical thing that she does with that, where I was just like, oh my god, I rewound it and watched it like 10 times.
So did I. I also rewound where she as she's singing, she's also bringing in the lisp at really key moments.
Yes.
Like, to be able to have that type of, and then when she does the, going back to Colin, you're hinting at suddenly Seymour being tied to this, I really totally agree with Somewhere That's Green, and suddenly Seymour being the, like, I tear up, you know. I'm right, like I want you to be somewhere that's green, but it's when she the show me I can, and really starts belting it out without all of the kind of affectation that she's using, and it becomes her like more natural singing voice. To move in between them, it's so heartbreaking. It's so beautiful. Yeah,
I can't ever listen to her sing it without crying, honestly. Like, this is my favorite movie, and if you ask me my favorite song, it's probably Somewhere That's Green. And I don't mean from this movie, I mean of all time. Somewhere That's Green brings me up so like romantically, and then crashes me down so hard to reality again. It hurts, but it's beautiful every time. Like like you talked about, like the chain link fence. She doesn't say it's chain link fence. She says a fence of real chain link. Like, that to her is so much better than what she has currently, which is probably like a door with a busted lock. That, like, you know, because, like, let's face it, her boyfriend, and we'll get to him, he kicks that door in so hard so many times.
Yes, and that she has a, you know, first floor what's that called? Road
like
facing. Yeah, but it's like, that's like the most dangerous apartment you can have, right? And I love how in the film it's the pull out from her shitty little apartment, and then it's the crane shot up to our Greek chorus to start the next scene. It is so both aspirational.
I think Parasite stole that. I think Parasite stole that shot
from
the window up.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right, Tara. Like, that pull up to then do the, what is it, Some Fun Now, where Seymour's feeding, like, because the audience has just been brought so low, like, and like heartbroken, for like, okay, we got to get the energy back up in this film. This is supposed to be fun. Like, we don't want people leaving like, okay guys, cyanide and razor blades under your seats. Like, have fun.
Right. Well, and I think that the movie also does a really good job of, you know, to get I'm pulling out my soapbox here. Here we go. You know, so whether, you know, it's intentional or not, there's a lot of, you know, undertones of, you know, the dangers of capitalism and, you know, the greed within that. And, and I think that it's interesting how it does keep juxtaposing these things of like, these like really shiny, you know, beautiful upbeat moments that are, you know, brought next to this song like Somewhere That's Green, like where you have like, hey, this person's down in the gutter, but right over here, this person is like literally, you know, feeding people to this like plant in order
get
to
somewhere
succeed.
that's green.
And they're just having a rip roaring time. Like, they're just having a wonderful time. And so I love that this movie is able to do that with just twisting that up twisting it up.
It really does.
There's also a critique or like a warning of the dangers of capitalism at the end when Jim Belushi wants to like take buds and like sell Audrey 2s and get them like in every house in America. It's like, oh no, we can't let this kind of danger spread. And we can talk about, I don't know if we mentioned it on or off the call, but we talked about the actual ending or like the bad ending.
Yeah, the
which
true
is
ending.
the way that the Broadway show ends. And the way that the original 1960 film ends is that the plants win. The plants like actually spread across the whole world and basically destroy the human race.
Yeah, and that's in the original 1960 movie, the plants don't like really spread across the whole world. It's pretty like localized, but it like eats everyone. Like it eats. Well, that movie has some interesting
we can take a whole digression to talk about that.
Choices were made in that movie. But the two different, I don't know which movie you watched, but I actually watched the director's cut, which has the original ending, which is like really just so sad and realistic too, because I don't know. I remember watching the movie with like the theatrical ending where it's like, and it felt so abrupt when Seymour and Audrey just like are like, cool, and now we're off. Like,
right.
That's it. We made it. And it's
right
like,
off into sunset.
Yeah, and you're like, that doesn't feel right. And it's not the way that it originally ends because the movie takes it to the place where Audrey ends up like there's a reprise to Somewhere That's Green where Audrey is being fed to the plant and she's saying, you can water me and feed me like as the plant because I am now giving myself to it to be eaten. And so now you'll still have this connection to me.
Whoa.
Somewhere That's
honestly
green.
That just thinking about it really
wow, that's really dark.
a little bit,
yeah. And then the plant ends up also eating Seymour. And then
because Seymour has the genius idea, I'm gonna jump into its mouth with a gardening shear and try to get you from the inside. Like, no, think better. Like, this thing eats people. Like, what makes you think you can jump into a wood chipper and disassemble it from the inside?
Right.
It worked in Sharknado.
Yeah, right.
Well, if we're playing by Sharknado rules, that's a whole other movie.
Yeah.
So Gregory, if this is your favorite movie, is it the Frank Oz 80s one that's your favorite movie?
Yes.
Or is it your favorite? And so what do you feel about the
okay, here's the thing.
one?
I like, there's something about this that just in general I like, of course the 1986 Frank Oz version is the one I fell in love with the most and at first. But I mean, I do like the original as well, the 1961. But that one's really weird. But like even like parallels to it, for some reason I'm drawn to. Like there's this really mature kind of Lovecraftian horror game called Saya no Ute, which means Son of Saya, which essentially is this. But instead of like a plant, it's like a Lovecraft monster, and the guy kind of like takes care of it, and then it takes over humanity, very mature. So like if you're underage and you're listening to this, do not look it up.
I don't think anyone underage listens to our podcast.
I don't think so. But,
I think our demo is like 40 to 55.
Right. That's but it's I don't know what it is. It's something about it that just kind of lures me, And I mean, I always joke with other friends like, "Oh, Greg, it's because you're into vor, isn't it?" And I'm like, "No, that's not it." Like,
well, it's a classic tale. Like it is very like Faustian deal. Like it is.
I think that's it. Yeah. It's, it's all about Audrey sweet talking Seymour. And like, I think, it's about the corruption of human morals. And, Seymour is a very put upon lowly guy. And here, like in the original song, I have the lyrics here. Let me get them here. For Skid Row, Seymour, where did I put it? Anyway, Seymour is essentially like, someone show me a way to get out of here.
Yeah.
I would move heaven and hell to get out of Skid. Meaning like he's already saying to the world, like in the universe, like, give me any reason and I'll do whatever it takes to get out of the situation. Here comes Audrey too. And what's great is that it's a slow buildup. It's at first everyone's putting him down. Then Seymour essentially starts to self-harm by pricking his own finger to feed Audrey and goes, well, it's okay if I do it to myself.
Right.
And then, you know, like eventually it's, well, here's a guy who's horrible to women, who is beating the woman that I love. Maybe if he goes, it's okay. You know,
and he already dies, right? He's already dead.
Right. And so, like,
yeah.
I didn't kill him. Yeah. Because Oren Scrivello, by the way, great name, Mom, Oren Scrivello. Like, you know, he puts on like this, like, really weird, kinky, like, oxygen mask that, like, gives him nitrous and makes him giggle, and he can't take it off, and he essentially suffocates himself. And Seymour's like, well, it's going to go to waste. So,
yeah. But
like,
then, even with that first moment, like, there's already an escalation of even that, because he goes in prepared to kill him and doesn't have to. But then when he brings him back to Audrey 2, Audrey 2 is like, chop him up. Like,
yeah.
And so that's already just like this.
And Seymour's
escalation.
Like, okay. Yeah. It's just an escalation of, like, he just keeps pushing his morals further and further. And to me, the ultimate pinnacle of it, and it's not really shown as well in the movie, but in the Broadway production with the Michonne Harris, where all these people are coming to him saying, like, I want you to be in the cover of Time magazine. I want you to do these, like, you know, weekly talk shows and stuff like that. He sings to himself, like, if I keep doing this, it means more killing, but also my bank account will climb. What am I saying? Like, I can't do this. But then he goes, but then there's Audrey, lovely Audrey. And if I don't do this, she won't want me anymore.
Yeah.
And then,
she
like,
might not want me.
Yeah.
She might not need me. Without my plan, she won't love me anymore.
Yeah. And then, so what's great is my favorite moment that's not in this film is Seymour just kind of going, where do I sign? You know, just like, you can see the exact moment, or at least hear the exact moment of when he, like, okay, I'm giving up. I'm giving in. Whatever you want, plant. Let's do this. You know, and it's like you said, it's Faustian. It's like, at what point does a human being, like, give it all up and just say, like, okay, like, everything's off the table, like, let's go for it. You know?
Yeah. And it is like it's a slow erosion, and you see it happen as the plant not only, like, gets bigger itself, but, like, it starts, like, offering bigger things. You know, it's got the you know, how about a date with Hedy Lamarr, or a guest shot on Jack Parr? You know, all of these things that I'm sure everyone here knows exactly who they are and doesn't.
Right.
Those such contemporary references. I'm sure everybody
and
gets.
No one needs to do any Google search to know who those people are. And, you know, and so the plant's just like, yeah, you know, I can get it for you. You know, all you got to do is, you know, feed me. And like you're saying, initially it was Seymour, like, feeding itself to, you know, the machine, the plant, the, you know, this, like, force of corruption. And as it needs more and more, then he has to start feeding it more and more. And then it starts with, oh, this is justifiable, to, oh, now I need to cover my tracks, to, oh, this was an accident, but here we are. Like,
ends justify the means, right?
Yeah.
Ends always just. So I really like the way you all are describing it. I'm just putting some words together. You all are saying it's a Faustian slow moral erosion for kids, right?
It even begins from a place of desperation. When he first discovers that he has to feed Audrey 2 blood, he's got the whole song Grow For Me, where he's listing all the things that he's done. Like, I've given you potash, you've given me zip. And then at one point out of frustration, he says, what do you want from me, blood? And that's when he, like, pricks his finger and discovers that, oh no, the plant wants blood.
Yeah.
So it begins from a place that he's, like, at the end of his rope. He has nothing else to do. So there's nowhere for him to go but into that decline.
Now, I've got a question for you guys, because I've had debates about this with friends before, and we had talked about it a little bit before recording. What is the driving power behind this eroding morals? Because I think, and Colin, you're going to say, oh, it's just a James Bond theory all over again, Greg, but I think there's pheromones involved. I think there were pheromones involved here, because, you know, if you think about it, like, it is a plant, you know, so, like, it does release certain perfumes. And the idea that this plant finds the one loser guy on all of planet Earth to do this. And then also at the end, with the bad ending with Don't Feed the Plants, they have the lyrics, subsequent to the events you have just witnessed, unsuspecting jerks from Maine to California made the acquaintance of a new fly trap and got sweet talked into feeding blood. That means that like you have to keep finding just the right guys to be like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Okay, sure, I'll feed blood.
See,
And
but
then,
I think that that's the part of the point, is that it could just be anyone, and it's not, and it could be anyone.
yeah.
And so that's like the thing of like the desperation, and where I feel like the whole American dream of it comes into play, of like, it's these like things that are like, it's promising you all of these like, this notoriety, it's promising you this like feeling of uniqueness and individuality and specialness and exceptionalism, and all of these things are being promised at the cost of like, how much are you willing to corrupt yourself, or how much are you willing to hurt other people to get what you want out of life. And that is, I think, a part of what plays in those undertones of like how this plant is able to appeal to so many people, because when that final scene where it is doing the whole don't feed the plants, because like in the director's cut, like the whole last like 7 minutes is just like these plants like completely like fucking shit up. Like it's like you said, it starts
like
with
Godzilla
that, like,
movie, yeah.
Yeah, it like you said, it starts with that like, subsequent to the events you have just witnessed, and then it goes into don't feed the plants, where it's just like plants coming out of buildings, and then the final scene of the director's cut is like one of the plants like literally has its like tentacles coming down through the Statue of Liberty, like it's like in its brain, like it's like seeping into its brain and like roaring from the top of the Statue of Liberty. So it's like, I think it's very much like saying this is something that could happen to anyone. This is something that we're all engaging on in some like form or fashion, like to like fulfill, the American dream, to become like a Jeff Bezos, or sorry, Twitch, owned by Amazon. But like, it's like all of these things that like how far are you willing to go to get that success?
And as much as like we can, somewhere that's green is about material things, Pine Sol and toasters and stuff and fences. It's also about a sense of safety, right? That if she can get out of Skid Row, she's not going to have the abusive boyfriend, blah, 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 blah. But it's this mistake, right? Because it's not that in, a tract home in that community, there's not endless domestic violence also, right? It's kind of this false promise of safety. That for me is part of it, is that Seymour will be happier because he won't be alone and he won't be a loser, right? And Audrey will feel safe. And neither of those things are true necessarily, right? Neither of these are guarantees. Yeah.
And those are like the only two options in this movie. Like, it's like, it's either like be in Skid Row and like figure something out. Like, he already looks like, he's like in his maybe like mid-20s to like, like mid to late 20s in this movie. And so it's like, he's spent his whole life here as an orphan, a child of the street, here on Skid Row,
It's so hard not to do lyrics.
Poor all my life. I've always been poor. I keep asking God what I'm for. All of these things where like we see like he just literally has no alternatives, no other options. This thing comes in and says, hey, I can take care of you. Like, I can get you out of this. And, you'll even, be able to help that person that you love. You'll be able to provide things for her too.
Yeah. And so, our Greek chorus doesn't have any options either, right? That they left school at 15 or whatever, that it's this kind of desperation, but the kind of solution for it is kind of unchecked capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you intend to better yourselves? Better ourselves. Better ourselves.
Oof, that's so great. Such a wonderful moment.
Speaking of unchecked capitalism, can we talk about the really, really bad Asian stereotype in this movie?
Yeah.
Where in the scene where they're talking, the Dadu number, where Seymour gets Audrey to, he talks about how he bought Audrey 2 from this old Chinese guy who sold it to me anyways for $1.95. This guy is like literally the opposite of the shop owner from Gremlins. Yeah. The shop owner in Gremlins, he's like, you're not ready for this supernatural creature. I don't care how much money you throw at me, white guy. You're not getting the Mogwai. I'm sorry. This guy's like, a weird, unexpected total eclipse of the sun happened. Green emerald lightning just struck the ground like 2 meters from where I'm standing. A weird humming happened. What's this plant that I don't recall having 2 seconds before my inventory? How much you got in your pocket? You know, it's like he's willing to just like, oh yeah, capitalism, sure, whatever. I don't care. $1.95.
Yeah, this trope, right, is so problematic in the same way magical Negroes are. I think Arrested Development said it really, like, kind of coined a fun way of saying it, which is ancient Chinese secret, right? That Jed goes to, Joe gets to get, you know, tea for dong at ancient Chinese secret. And I feel like it's that same kind of pervasive,
which is in
negative,
itself
terrible stereotype.
A reference to capitalism, because that's a line from an old detergent ad.
Is it?
Where this guy would be getting his shirts back from the dry cleaner, and he'd be like, "Oh, how did you do this?" He would say, "Ancient Chinese." The guy would, this caricature, this absolute stereotype, would say, "Ancient Chinese secret," and then the guy's wife would pull out a box of the detergent and go, "Ancient Chinese secret, huh?"
Yeah, I remember that commercial.
God.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed for that.
I think that, like, you know, Mushnik is very similar in that aspect too, because it's like he's willing to you know, overlook Seymour killing Orin Scrivello in order to make more money. Like, he's like, well, if you just leave, tell me how to feed the plant, tell me how to take care of the plant, and like just allow me to have all of like the notoriety and money off of this situation, then I'll let you go and you can just lay low for the next 20 or 30 years. So it's like, you know, I think there's an element of, you know, it was the 80s. So none of these things are being like checked. These are all unchecked. And so, like, yeah, there's definitely some issues in like the characters that they chose to like have these characteristics, and there's definitely some bias there. But like also the overall theme of the movie is like about like how capitalism and greed you know, are these like consuming obsessions. So yeah, I'm definitely not giving it a pass on any of that, but it also is something that, like, because yeah, they got to choose who they had be these characters, so but yeah, it is an overall theme in the movie. And I think that to go back a little bit on this kind of amazing but also like really sad thing. It's like the song that has like a really great like catchy tune but is like about the most depressing thing ever. Like Skid Row is just like so wonderfully that song where it's just like, you know, it's this like really kind of like upbeat, like catchy song. But it's like, yeah, you know, the bosses take your money, you know, all you do is like scrub floors, and you have to take care of all of these like entitled people who are just like,
who are all uptown.
Crap. Yeah, who all live uptown.
Yeah, that's such a powerful number. I remember, I think I must have watched this probably the first time on a VHS tape. And I remember when it got to the end. Yeah, it got to the end of that number, and my sister and I rewound it to rewatch that number again. Yeah. You get to the end of it and you're like, oh, it was so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when it starts out just like that, alarm goes off at 7.
I love that intro belt, yeah.
Like, it's just like, yes,
we are in a world.
And then at the end, it's just like,
it's still
like,
the capitalism,
just
because
like
the next
screaming
line,
into the sky of like, we have to get out of this place. It's like Bohemian Rhapsody.
but the very next lines that she sings after, like, you start uptown, is you put in your 8 hours for the powers that have always been.
Yeah. till it's 5 p.m. All right, so I'm not going to sing the entire song, I promise.
So we could.
I'm
we could all
fine with
sing
it.
the
Go
entire
ahead,
song
sir.
right now.
I think that's a sing-along special
Right.
extra one.
You do you. Yeah.
We could have a sing along of Suddenly Seymour, because one of the things in my notes was that I stood up to sing along with Suddenly
Right.
Seymour
Yes.
when I was watching this the other night.
I actually was like laying down with, full sloth mode with like this bowl of popcorn and shoveling it in and then pausing eating to sing.
Yeah, this is like, like again, like going from Cats to this, where
I know.
I don't know. I can't think of one song from Cats that I actually actually enjoy. Oh no, Memory. Like that's the one song in Cats. And I know we talked about this in that episode of like, just that Andrew Lloyd Webber is still good at having that one song, but this is just like every song in this movie is just a fucking hit.
And it's also the way it's all shot, right? That you have this mixture of close-ups and wide shots, multi-camera scenes, the crane shot that we talked about. Every shot in this is deliberate, right? When all the feet on Skid Row are kind of marching in unison, right? Like this real attention to craft and detail, right? And that's all Frank Oz. And unlike Cats, maybe it's a good idea to get someone who knows how to work with puppets to shoot a movie with a giant puppet in it, right?
Yeah.
It's like Cats, it's like, do you know anything about animation? Clearly not, because that's how we end up in the uncanny valley of like no nipple land, right?
Yeah, and just constant shoulder moving, just
And
like.
What? That's not dancing. That's not
just
dancing.
Moving your shoulders to. That's also not music.
I know. Colin, I've been thinking about the like, I'm a cat. This is the cat I am. I'm a cat. This is the cat I am. That's all the fucking movie is. You're totally right.
It's the entire play.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. But on the note about directing, so Roger Corman did the first one, right? And so Roger Corman in the short is like a godfather of indie cinema. That's where Scorsese, Coppola, John Sayles, James Cameron, there's at least two other major directors that I can't think of right now who got their start with Roger Corman, right? And then Frank Oz coming from Sesame Street and Yoda and that whole world, but then also his live action directing career. So I feel like here it's like the two of them dovetailing beautifully, right? The kind of
I agree, yeah.
Work in this kind of semi-fantasy land of Sesame Street, right? Like where you have puppets and real humans and it's a stylized city, but it's still believable and charming and is a world, right? That ability plus the kind of strength of the musical together. I think it's just kind of, that's the part of the winning combination is a strong director who knows the terrain and knows what they're doing. Yeah.
Right.
There's very few differences between the Roger Corman film and the Frank Oz film. They're very, very different movies. Like the Roger Corman movie is this real kind of broad, strange comedy. Like it starts out as like a Dragnet parody, and then
with like a cop narration who you don't meet until the last 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
What? I haven't seen
it's like a noir film type of deal.
It's a noir, and then at one point there are two cops who are having a dragnet back and forth with each other, and the Seymour character is much more of a bumbling, like goofus type of dude. Like he like stumbles his way into killing people in the Roger Corman film more than like it's something he's deliberately doing or more like something that they're commenting on. It's a very strange movie.
Did you notice the big cameo in that one?
Oh, yeah, Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, like so young Jack Nicholson. like
I only recognized him from that creepy grin that he has.
Exactly.
That signature grin. If it wasn't for the fact, like if he was in COVID times and wearing a mask, I'd be like, who's that?
Yeah, he's like the Bill Murray character in the original, like the guy who like really wants
the sadist,
the guy who wants
the dentist.
Pain.
Corman launched the careers of so many of that generation actors, right? All those indie actors who then went on to be mainstream. But Dennis Hopper, Jack Nicholson, who else? The one of the Fondas, Peter Fonda, right? Like he really launched all of their careers. So to me, it's like this really exciting trajectory of kind of independent cinema, right, into kind of mainstream 80s, but doing mainstream 80s so well, right? And there's a reason why this has become a classic film. And I think the choice to change, to film the alternate happy ending, I don't know if it would be as much of a hit if it had that terrifying ending, right? Like I'm really curious. I think if it were made today, maybe they could get away with that.
Yeah, I think today, like it would probably hit because we're all at critical mass in terms of like late stage capitalism. So I feel like a movie like this,
plus climate change, it's like the two, one with the other.
Yeah. So I think if this movie had come out with that ending today, it would have been a hit. But I feel for 1986. Yeah, and I think it's interesting that a lot of these themes, because the original movie was in 1980, or the original musical.
The play was in 1982.
Yeah, because it went from movie to play to movie musical.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was all happening like right as like Reagan was elected. Like all this is happening like right in that time period. So I could see like this like again being like some off Broadway thing that happened like in 1982, and then
it did start
by the time it made it to
Broadway.
theaters in 86, it was like, oh, we have to like make this like cute and happy by the end of it.
but it still has all that Reaganomics critique in there.
Exactly.
Right? It's still there, which I really. So I realize we haven't talked about like the things this movie is perhaps most famous for, like the puppetry or the dentist song, right? Or Bill Murray. Like we haven't even touched on the kind of most quote unquote most famous things. So I don't know if anyone wants to start somewhere on that.
We can start in on the dentist. That's actually a weird story about my connection to this movie. Is that the first time I was ever exposed to it was, I don't know if it was the movie or the stage play, but my oldest brother played the dentist in his high school's production of this. And so I got to see, the stage play, and then we probably had the movie on VHS or something. So we watched a whole bunch of it. And then what's funny is that my middle brother then went on to marry a dentist.
So
those munches in their teeth, man.
The dentist, who's played by Steve Martin, is this like sadistic character who this movie has proven to me that Steve Martin would have made a really good Joker if somebody had cast Steve Martin.
Yeah.
He still would. He still could be. He's still alive. Right?
But he's the sadistic, like kind of Elvis type character of a dentist who uses his position as a dentist basically to torture people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the most famous songs in the show is the "You'll be a dentist. You have a talent for causing things pain. Son, be a dentist.
Son, be a dentist." Ooh, nice. This movie is full of all sorts of good cameos. Like we know that Bill Murray comes in and he's the sadist in this one who loves and kind of ruins it for Steve Martin. I guess he loves the screams of terror in his clients, but Bill Murray's into it. So he goes, "No, you're not doing it for me, buddy. Leave." But did you guys catch the Harry Potter reference in this film, or the Harry Potter connection?
Yes, yes.
Go ahead.
No, you do it. I didn't see it as Harry Potter. I know that actress. So
okay, yeah, because one of my houses, I always say like people should have a fallback house. I'm Ravenclaw, fallback Hufflepuff. Like if Ravenclaw's too full, I'm like, okay, we got to put you somewhere else. And so my beloved Professor Sprouts is in this as that nurse who tells them like, ask him yourself, I'm on lunch.
Yes, and she is an
Professor Sprout.
Yes, and she, Miriam Margolyes, is a very famous British stage actress who has been out longer than I've been alive. And watching her on Graham Norton, watching her tell stories about the time she met Laurence Olivier and began to cream in her knickers, and watching all of the other male guests lose their shit. There's actually a supercut of 45 minutes of her on the Graham Norton show.
Oh, I gotta find
watching her time after time after time. Like really, she knows exactly what she's doing, right? As like a gay woman, performer, and she like does these like meandering stories that start out really sweet and aren't they so cute? And oh nope, and now she's having sex with a boy on a bicycle. It's like so check it out. Yes.
Yeah, I saw Christopher Guest is in this too.
Yes.
Yep.
Is he dubbed? I think he might be overdubbed.
I think that whole scene is like, because there's like all like when the plant, it's literally as soon as Mushnik is like, what you think just because you put some plant in the mirrors, people are gonna just like start coming? And then he's like, oh, what's that peculiar plant there in the window?
Yeah, I think it is overdubbed, but for effect, because they want it to seem that strange. Like, I just came in to see that strange and interesting plant.
Yeah.
Why? While I'm here, I might as well take $50 worth of roses.
Exactly.
Okay, he's willing to drop $100 for roses in an economically depressed area. That reinforces my pheromone theories.
But I think the other moment they intentionally overdub like that, where they ADR loop it, is when it's all the contract signing, because that's also kind of over the top, and the lip sync doesn't quite match up. Like it's kind of it's bad enough that it's intentional. You know what I mean? Because Frank Oz knows how to do ADR. He knows how to do that correctly.
We also have a cameo from John Candy in this movie as the radio host. Who hosts the show where people bring in their weird and crazy stuff. And just again, with the attention to the production design and the world building, we pan out to show the people's weird, crazy stuff. And there's a little person who has a mannequin dressed as a nun that is playing an alto sax.
Yes.
We have
some guy with a flying machine that he seems to have built.
Yeah, some guy with some sort of strange flying apparatus. We have an old woman with like what looks like a brick purse, like wrapped in heavy chains, as if she's gonna like drag somebody down to the ocean with this thing.
Are there any other cameos? I think that's probably most of them.
That's pretty much it. We already mentioned Jim Belushi, who I feel like he just wandered onto set and was like, okay, I guess I can do this for your afternoon, Yeah. I think I heard that was supposed to be somebody else and they had to cancel. So they got Jim Belushi like last minute.
Yeah, so from what I heard, like the original movie was essentially just like a test to see if they could make a movie in a ridiculous short amount of time.
Roger Corman.
I feel like some of the themes which I think I'm a little bit upended in this one, like because everyone in the original one, it feels like their deaths never really feels like that impactful. It's like they're supposed to be like these like inconsequential people who like are like from the wrong side of the tracks. There's like, oh yeah, like the alcoholic, and then the the sex worker, and at the end it's like, well, Seymour, he was the asshole who was killing everyone, so of course he has to die. And so I really think that this is one of the few examples of something that like takes the original source material and actually made something better of it. Like,
absolutely.
Now, if you want to talk about making something worse out of it, though, did you guys know there's a cartoon?
Oh God,
I did not know that.
When is this from?
There was an early '90s cartoon. I've linked a little thing in our Zoom here, so you can see the image of it. They take all the characters and they age them back about 15 years. So Seymour and Audrey are in middle school.
Holy shit.
Audrey is the daughter of Mushnik. Every episode, she's obsessed with becoming some new profession. Like the first one, she just wants to be a firefighter. So she's always obsessed with hose and like ladders and stuff. You have a bully character in here who wears headgear and is always like messy with Seymour. He like puts him into his dental like band-aids or like rubber bands and snaps him back. Not named Orin Scrivello. The dental bully is named Pain Driller.
Wow.
And because it's a kid's cartoon, of course, you can have people being murdered or Audrey drinking blood. So Audrey Jr., and they don't call it Audrey 2, they just call it Audrey Jr. in this one, like in the original. First of all, it raps. Every single episode, there's at least 2 or 3 raps that Audrey Jr. does.
I'm guessing it's like white rapping from the mid-90s.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
it was the 90s. So.
Like one of the most standout raps it does is about lies. Big ones, small ones, little ones, white lies, lies. You know, like it's all about like lies are bad, you know. So it's one of those that always has a message. And Audrey Jr. is constantly trying to wake the other plants up so that it can have sort of like an overthrow of humanity and have plants take over the world again. So it's constantly just shouting at daisies in Mushnik's like stores and like, wake up, get moving, we gotta do this. Like,
oh my God.
Like inciting like a revolution.
Like, yeah, but like they're just daisies, so they don't do anything. So Audrey's like always like, how do I get this to work? But the entire series starts off with the best line in all of cartoon history. Seymour's introducing himself as he wakes up. Like, hi, my name's Seymour Krelborn. I've been working towards being a nerd for the past 13 years, but so far I'm not successful because I don't have the brains for it. Like, your goal is to be a nerd?
What?
There's this amazing YouTube clip where these people like really deep dive into the entire series. I highly recommend it. Just look up Little Shop of Horrors cartoon, and you'll find all sorts of people like analyzing this for how bad it is. It's truly, truly wonderful. And then the last little bit of promo work they had here that I'll link here as well is, did you know there's a board game?
No.
I found this out. I also, because, you know, of my Friday's Game Night podcast, so I like to always look at weird board games. There is a board game called Feed Me, where it is essentially like the opposite of Crocodile Dentist. You have a plastic contraption that looks like baby Audrey in like a pot, and you have to put little like red marbles into its mouth until it eventually snaps shut on your finger.
So is it kind of like Hungry Hungry Hippo or something?
It's kind of like Hungry Hungry Hippo or like Crocodile Dentist, because Crocodile Dentist,
like
you'd be taking the
teeth
teeth out, but instead you're putting like red like blood marbles in.
Blood marbles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I assume this game is from the 90s?
Yeah, this is like late 80s, early 90s.
Early 90s, yeah.
Or
this
1980,
packaging
I have it
looks
here,
very
1987.
early 90s.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Wow. Of course. Of
Mhm.
course. Okay, so we talked about the dentist stuff. I love his apron. That's like a butcher's apron as opposed to a
Right,
dental
the meat
one.
apron, yep.
That also hints like a little hint into S&M.
Mhm.
Gas mask plus that is like moving into, you know, a particular vein of that. Bill Murray, of course, is amazing. Apparently, you all know this movie and this history way better than I do, but I think he improvised a lot of it. I was
Gotta
reading.
get a candy bar. Yep.
Yeah.
But then they were having problems matching it in editing, right? Because, you know, like none of those
Mhm.
sequences made sense together and whatnot. So, but that seems very Bill Murray. But the puppetry, can we just
Yes.
Oh, please, yes.
talking
It's
about-
amazing. Like
it's like phenomenal. It's the craft, the attention to detail, the ways in which every expression of emotion can come through where there's only a mouth, there's no eyes, right? Like animators, puppeteers, etc., often use the eyes as kind of a central place to like show like big wide-eyed expression or whatever. It's all through the mouth
Mhm.
and the tongue. I think honestly, even though it's not probably technically the most impressive, but just visually I love it so much, is when Audrey 2 starts kicking out of the can and getting
Yes.
larger, right? It's because it's like, whoa, pushing through something that's that solid, which obviously it's not, right? And then the unfurling of the kind of fern-like structures around, tendrils around, and then the tongue that starts coming out. Oh, it's so remarkable.
yeah.
It really is a marvel.
That was the thing. Yeah, the tongue is always what interested me for like the puppetry, because the mouth is just, of course, it's just a hinge opening up and down. And then the tentacles it shows in the Feed Me song, that looks like maybe stop motion that they're doing for like how the tentacles are so smoothly unfurling and moving around and gesturing. But the tongue, I'm like, how did you guys even do that? Because that thing's actually moving around and forming different shapes to make the different words. So
as
Yeah.
are the lips.
Yeah, the
on
lips
later,
too,
the
yeah.
lips on the later ones. Yeah, it truly is a marvel. I know that they did use a lot of like wires, strings to pull on it for the kind of tendrils, right? The tendrils are a whole separate, basically rig. But gosh, and they used a lot of force perspective that I don't think Audrey 2 is really that big that they shot it in force perspective, because it's hard, think of how heavy that puppet would be. But
Yeah.
I did hear
I
this.
can tell you that the Audrey 2, like the full grown Audrey 2 puppet is is very, very heavy. At least when you do the stage play, it's extremely heavy.
Yeah,
I do know that I've heard that when doing some of the animation for IWYTWT, they had to like do it at a certain speed, or the puppetry rather. They could only do it so fast, you know.
Yep.
So Rick Moranis had to record his scenes and essentially lip dub himself going half speed.
Yes.
So it always reminds me of that scene from that Rainn Wilson film, The Rocker, where like the director wants them to like film the thing backwards. So you're just going to move a little bit backwards.
Yep.
And then take a picture, and you can move a little bit backwards, and then take a picture. Like, imagine be like, okay, Rick, you're going to sing this song like how you would, but do it really slow.
Yeah, and he had to relearn it that slow. Yeah,
Mhm.
to be able to be in real time. Yep. I think it's half speed that's how they did it. Because if you think about the lips moving in some of those the later numbers,
Yeah.
it's going so fast. And it was
Yeah,
like,
there's no way.
Yeah. Oh, but can we please have this level craft come back instead of
Yes.
endless fucking CGI?
Instead of just all CGI, let's get back to like using puppets again, because it
Right.
looks so much better and it looks so much more real in certain ways than the CGI is.
And the stakes are higher, and that there's something physical and tangible there, even if you have that kind of suspension of disbelief. Like, we know it's a puppet, like nobody thinks it's a real plant that they've somehow, bioengineered or something.
Right.
But that it has stakes. I remember we were watching, a friend and I were watching in the movie theater, we saw a double header of, I think it was Jurassic Park 3 and some other piece of shit.
Oh.
But the beginning of Jurassic Park 3, the plane scene, which I haven't seen it since, but my friend just turned to me in the theater and goes, "Aw, somebody broke their CGI plane." Because who cares, right? We know it's not real.
Right. Like, if
there's
you
no tangible, physical, tactile stakes for it.
Exactly. Speaking of Frank Oz, look at one of his characters, Yoda.
Yep.
Yoda just sitting there on a log, just poking at things with his little cane, is way more entertaining to watch than him as a CGI monstrosity backflipping with a lightsaber, fighting Christopher Lee.
Yeah, him with the little stick going like,
Yeah.
Or even like, we've got, Baby Yoda now, which is, a puppet as well. And the level of just like enthusiasm, like I don't think that character would have had nearly as much like impact had it been just like a CGI, like just a little CGI thing on the side of like the thing. It was a puppet. And so it was like, it looks like something, like it looks like it's there because it is there.
Because there's actually physically something there.
Yeah.
And I hate to correct you, but I hate to correct you, but he has a name, and it's Grogu.
I know. No, it's Baby Yoda.
It's Baby
I know what
Yoda.
I said. I said what I said. I said what I said, and it's Baby Yoda. Do you want to be off this podcast, Colin? Do we not already discuss this with cats? They're on your last leg, all right? It's Baby Yoda.
Yeah, Colin's not allowed to pick the movies anymore.
He had 9 lives and he spent them all.
Yeah, on cats.
All of them on Andrew Lloyd Webber.
And I think they're being very tight-lipped about how the nitty gritty of how they're doing Baby Yoda, but I think it is a combination of puppet and then kind of CGI enhancements.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Which is fine, because the way they're doing it, again, it's tactile, it has weight, it has dimension. I know that Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I don't know if any of y'all have seen, but
that's my number 2 favorite movie. Yes.
Oh, we could do that movie.
Scarred me so much as the child.
I love that movie. That's a really
Scarred you? Why? Come on. Was it because of Christopher Lee? It was because of Christopher Lee.
There's not like a whole ending part of that movie that is the most terrifying thing to a child.
Yeah.
This is
could
amazing.
possibly put in front of them.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
That's also a wonderful critique of capitalism, and in particular, the LA trains, the highway system being built in Southern California, devastating, ethnic and immigrant neighborhoods. Yay! Let's watch that movie next. Anyway, sorry, my point. This is a rambling thing here, but what the prequel Star Wars movies did not do that Who Framed Roger Rabbit did, even though it was shot 20 plus years earlier, is that if you think about, if you're looking at a CGI character or someone who's not there, right? If you like take a pen and focus your eyes on it, right? And then take the pen away, to hold your eyes in space in that gaze is actually really hard, right? So if I have to kind of do this, I'm almost cross-eyed because I'm not looking at something right now. So Bob Hoskins, thank you. He spent the entire movie doing that, right? With and that's why it feels so real, even though it's animated. They also had like a stuffed animal, or not stuffed animal, but they had like kind of stand-in ones and like a tennis ball and other stuff. But that's why in like, it looks like Obi-Wan Kenobi is like looking through all of the CGI characters, right? It's because the gaze is focused, 20 feet beyond and not kind of where it is in physical space. So it's not just the character itself looks like it's not real, it's the way the human performers with them don't interact with them as if they're real. Yeah, which they've kind of fixed since then. Like, they've kind of found other ways to produce since then. But that's one of the, I remember when the prequel trilogy came out, I was like, did you not learn anything from Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Like, everybody's like gazing off into space, right, and I'm supposed to be talking to someone.
And that's why Steve from Blue's Clues fell into drugs.
Wow. All right.
Because he's just interacting with nothing all day. So.
Right on. Do we have any final notes on the movie?
I had a couple little things. One thing that was like strangely disturbing to me while watching it this time, because I've seen this movie a bunch, but this is the first time since I've had a kid, is that when Seymour, like, he starts out by just dripping blood, but when he's just like sticking his fingers into the plant and the plant is just like sucking the blood out of his finger, it was eerily reminiscent of like when my son is nursing. Especially like
it's suckling. It's suckling.
It's suckling, but especially the look on Seymour's face, just like, oh my God, it is the same look that like if my son is colicky, or like if he's been having a rough night and he's just been nursing nonstop to soothe himself. My wife has exactly that look on her face. They're like, we've been at this for hours. And we just
Colin, did you not have a James Bond connection?
I'm trying. If you've got one, share it with me, because I.
For shame, I have two.
You have two? I completely dropped.
Oh well, it looks like we're going to be replacing our straight white guy on this podcast. So welcome our new token white guy.
Welcome.
Slid into the DMs. I'm sliding into the podcast.
Your one purpose here has been replaced, Colin.
Yeah.
Behold my glory.
Hey, well, this is the difference between first place and third place in the Bond League. I mean, Greg comes by it honest. All right. Hit me with the James Bond connection.
Okay, first of all, many of the scenes for this film were actually filmed in Pinewood Studios on the 007 stage, where they filmed many 007 shots, including the Suddenly Seymour number. Also, they are planning to do a remake of Little Shop of Horrors coming out in the next few years.
Yes.
And they're going to have Taron Egerton to play Seymour. Taron plays Eggy in the Kingsman franchise, which is essentially younger, more gadgety James Bond knockoff.
It's kind
all right, that's a roundabout. All right, Colin, you get to hold on to your. You get to hold on.
But hey, I got the Pinewood Studios.
Yeah, you got the
Studios.
So give me 1.5.
Yeah, I'll give you 1.5. But I do have a little bit more information about the in pre-production remake. So Taron Egerton is going to be playing Seymour. Scarlett Johansson is cast as Audrey. Chris Evans is cast as the dentist, and Billy Porter is cast as Audrey too.
Okay.
Wait, sorry, right. I was stuck on the first one because I don't know.
That's hilarious. I just see at the bottom, Tara, like, who is Taron Egerton? I don't know who the fuck is this guy.
He's the guy from Kingsman.
Did you see the latest what's his name?
Was,
Elton John. The Elton John biopic.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, but if you've seen the trailer, you know.
Okay.
Elton John biopic.
Okay.
But yeah.
So it's Elton John. Scarlett Johansson plays all the black roles.
I wanted to actually be
she's
Elton
the
John.
entire Greek chorus.
Oh, could you imagine?
Yeah, she's what is it? It's Chiffon, Rodnette, and
Crystal.
Yeah, she's all three of them.
She's all three. Okay. And then who else? Sorry, Colin.
Chris Evans is the dentist, and Billy Porter is Audrey too.
Is Chris Evans funny?
That's a great question.
He's been in comedies.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you what, I'll go back, I'll rewatch Fantastic Four to see his comic beats in there and let you know.
See, I think what she meant is he intentionally funny. Is he intentionally funny? I think is the question. He had some like some quippy moments in Knives Out.
Can he sing and dance?
Ooh, see now that's the thing about like what's happening. This is what I like. This is like
this is where we're gonna do the CGI enhancements for him, his dancing and singing.
Like I miss movie musicals where like the people that were in the movie musicals like could
And
sing and dance.
Sing and dance. Yeah.
Like Danny Kaye.
La La Land started all this. I blame
Oh,
what's his name? Damien
Damien Chazelle.
Yeah.
I could not, as I've said before, at least I can't remember if it was on the podcast or just to y'all personally. Like I watched like 20 minutes and I could not watch any more of that. I was this is pathetic.
Yeah, I
like,
haven't gotten around to La La Land.
I can sing and dance better than they can, and that is not a good thing, right? Like I can do neither.
Yeah. But there was like they did do like they had a rerun of the stage play, and I think like I want to say Amber Riley was in it. If she's not, she should be in it. I think Amber Riley was in it, and I think India Moore was in it. India Moore is no, it was MJ Rodriguez. MJ Rodriguez. She is Blanca on Pose. If you've seen that.
Oh, yeah.
She was in it. Someone else, but like they did like a stage play for a revive. I don't know what you call it when you bring a stage play back. Revival, yes. Yeah. Stage play revival of Little Shop. I think this is like last year or 2018 or 10 years ago. I don't know. It could have been 20 years ago at this point. But I saw some clips from that, and that one looked really good. So just bring the play back. Let's just
watch that, because
let's not do the movie again.
I'm trying to.
This is perfect, and I probably won't watch the new one.
No, because I'm trying to picture Scarlett Johansson singing "Suddenly Seymour" and then having a CGI Audrey too. Right? It's gonna be terrible.
Yeah, I don't want it. All right. Well,
my only other note before stats is that stats and for Greg to do his plugs is that in the Summer That's Green number, Audrey is having a Tupperware party.
Yes.
It just goes to show that pyramid schemes targeted housewives even in the 1950s.
Even in the 50s. Even in the 50s. Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Yep.
And then I have one last note. You cannot electrocute plants. Because at the end of this film, Seymour kills Audrey too by hitting it with a big like electric cable. Electrocution kills because it shuts down your vital organs. Plants don't really have vital organs to shut down. At worst, it might set Audrey on fire. But since it's a sentient moving plant, it could just like put it out. So.
Wow, this is good to know.
Yeah. So if you ever get into a situation where you have an electric cable that's live wire right there next to a giant plant, I mean, you can try, but
probably. Did you all watch the theatrical version then for this?
Yeah, I wish I had watched the director's cut now.
Okay, yeah.
I want to see it with the good.
Oh, I've seen both versions.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, in that one, it's like I said, so like Audrey gets eaten by the plant. She does like the reprise of Somewhere That's Green, and then Seymour like goes on the roof. He's about to kill himself, and this guy comes out from like, marketing and, R&D, and is like, hey, we made another version of your plant. And so that makes him like go back down to confront Audrey to say like, oh, this is your plan all along, right? One of you in every American household. And then that's when he gets eaten. And then that goes into the that last part with like just 7 minutes of the plants. Like people, it's like literally like looking at it, it's a scene of like a Black Friday. And I don't think Black Friday even existed like at this point, but it's like people are like literally like ripping like Audrey 2s off the shelves. Like it's like so clearly just like, oh yeah, consumerism. Like we are
not subtle. Yeah.
So yeah, it's I definitely recommend watching the director's cut version if you haven't seen that one as well, because that song is also really good too. Don't Feed the Plants is a really good song that I don't think we get in the theatrical.
No, you don't get that at all in the hero ending, where Seymour essentially gets a bunch of bricks falling onto him. He should be concussed / dead.
Yeah.
But instead, he grabs a live wire that happens to be there, gently like boops Audrey too. It's like tentacle with it, and then it just starts to vibrate and then explodes into stardust like a Final Fantasy VII boss.
All right, you wanted to give us some stats on this?
Sure. So we'll start with the 1960 movie. The 1960 movie has a 92 on Rotten Tomatoes, a 55 on audience tomatoes, and a 6.3 on IMDb. This movie has a 7.0 on IMDb, 81 Metacritic, a 90 Rotten Tomatoes, and a 79 audience tomatoes.
It should be hundreds across the board, 10s across the board.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that audience score for the 1961 sounds about right. I watched it the other day. I was like, it's all right. Like, I get like how like it might have been wowing for like critics, but like, it's not as entertaining. I don't feel like I need to go back to that constantly. You know?
No, or at all, really.
Yeah.
Personally.
All right. Well, I have some recommendations if you like this movie.
Yes.
And you all can chime in on this because obviously. So I would recommend other Frank Oz directed comedies like Bowfinger, What About Bob,
Mm-hmm.
or The Dark Crystal in a very different direction of puppetry. If you're going for the like camp musical, Hairspray, especially the Ricky Lake version is my favorite version of Hairspray.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for the critique of capitalism in the 80s, I would say They Live. We should have y'all watched that?
No, we should.
We should maybe do that.
I actually did an episode on They Live recently for my podcast, Movie Date Night.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
so
excellent.
maybe we'll just replay it. We'll just we'll just reenact your podcast. It'll be perfect. If you're just looking for the sweetness of like a local shop around the corner, I keep saying this film. It's the film that was then remade into When Harry Met Sally. No, sorry, it was made into what's the one they made after the bookstore?
Sleepless in
Sleepless
Seattle?
in Seattle is the one.
No. You've Got Mail.
You've Got Mail. Yes.
Oh
yeah,
God, why
you're
were there
right,
so
you're
many
right.
of that exact same movie?
I know, right? So Shop Around the Corner.
Listen, white people are not creative. We find one good idea and we will run with that until you stop buying.
And Meg Ryan will star in it, right? So Shop Around the Corner is from the late 30s, early 40s. Bandwagon is a lesser known Vincent Minnelli musical, but it's where you get the And Are You Okay? Michael Jackson video is a kind of remake of a dance like that. And then in La La Land, when they're dancing in the park, comes from Bandwagon. So I would recommend that as a kind of lesser known, really wonderful musical. And then, of course, Some Like It Hot, because that's where Audrey comes from in some ways. If you want to go even queerer than that movie.
Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yes. Okay. That's and also Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2.
Is that for the Bill Murray of it all?
That's for the Bill Murray of it all.
Oh, that's right. Rick Moranis was in those too. I totally forgot.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he's amazing in them. My favorite line in Ghostbusters 2, which most people hate, but I love, is they're in court and they're trying to defend what they did. And Rick Moranis just goes, I turned into a dog once and they helped me. Thank you. That's his testimony, right? And they're like,
I'm so excited about the potential return of Rick Moranis. Because he disappeared because his wife tragically died and he quit acting in order to raise his kids. But now that his kids are grown up, he's been looking at some stuff and he might be coming back to acting.
Nice.
Why don't they just cast him in the musical again? Sorry.
He should be like Mushnik. Like he should be like the.
Ooh, I like that.
Cool.
I like that.
Also like young Rick Moranis was like such a cutie to me. Like I had such a crush on him in like all these movies. I also like obviously like I had a type because I was also like really into Billy from the Power Rangers. Like the Blue Ranger, who's like also like the nerdy kid, like the nerdy one. It's just like
I get that, and I'm vibing with that. Yeah, I may be self-coding it straight, but like I can appreciate a good-looking guy when I see it, and that's my type too, the nerdy guy.
Colin, do you have any recommendations?
If you like the music in this movie, the music of Alan Menken and Howard Ashman.
He's done a few things.
You can check out the entire Disney Renaissance because basically these same two composers did the entire Disney Renaissance.
From Little Mermaid to Tarzan, pretty much.
Yeah. But in terms of things that I've been watching and enjoying lately, I've been using my HBO Max subscription, not just for The Mandalorian, but they have some old Adult Swim stuff on there, one of which is a show called Home Movies. Which is by the same creative team of the people who did Dr. Katz in the very early days of of Comedy Central, but it's a very quirky little comedy animated show, very dry, very fun. But I've also been enjoying Crashing, starring Pete Holmes and Lauren Lapkus, which is a HBO original series. So check those things out.
Right on. So I would recommend, I've got some musicals based on movies. So there's Mean Girls, Legally Blonde, Lion King, School of Rock, Shrek, Sister Act, Beetlejuice. Those are just a few of to name a few
Oh my gosh.
movies that eventually became stage musicals. And we'll probably at one point get movies made of the musicals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like, I don't know if this has been done like since this. Like I haven't heard of like has there been a musical that was made from a movie that then got turned into a movie musical?
I think Hairspray. I think Hairspray.
Hairspray was a movie that wasn't a musical, and then it was a musical, and then became a movie musical. All right.
If I remember correctly, there are a bunch of different versions of it.
Yeah. Well, there we go. It's good to know. I also, it's like the new year. People are, trying to, better themselves or whatever. I don't know. After 2020, I'm like, let's just make it through.
That's literally the way to say it. They're trying to better themselves. I don't know anymore. Yeah, that's literally like the slogan for 2021.
I was talking to some friends, over the holidays, and we decided that what we're aiming for is successful muddling.
Right.
Right? We're muddling, but we're doing it successfully. Right?
Like, yeah, I feel like honestly, 2020 felt like that scene of like leading into Skid Row, where it's like better ourselves in 2020. Ain't no such thing. Like we are just surviving. That is what we are fucking doing. So, but I've been like playing like keyboard off and on for a while. But I've been using it for like the last 4 or 5 months. This program called Melodics that is really cool. So this is not like sponsored or anything. Like, unless somebody at Melodics somehow manages to hear this and wants to sponsor me.
Which they should.
Wonderful, like, feed me. But that is a really great program for if you're using keyboard. Also, if you like use like the MIDI pads, the drum pads, it has like a drum pad section on there too. It's a really cool program. I really enjoy it. So if that's something that you're trying to learn music or something like that, I've already like noticed like an improvement in my fingering. And yeah, just my my rhythm, my sense of timing has been greatly improved in just like the 4 or 5 months that I've been using it. So yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone if that's what your vibe is, that's your jam.
Nice. Some folks are saying Bowfinger ! Yes,
oh yeah,
we should maybe do that. That's a good.
I should do that at some
movie.
point. Yeah, for sure.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Gregory, do you have any recommendations?
Honestly, like anything that I could have thought of, like you or Tara's already said, like I just recently discovered the Beetlejuice musical. I have Say My Name on loop constantly in my ears. Like such a good number.
Beyonce's Say My Name? Like
No.
Say My Name?
It's this really good musical number where Lydia and Beetlejuice first meet. And he's trying to like trick her
into that 3 times.
Yeah, and then she keeps going like Beetlejuice, because, and then she like goes up and like so she keeps kind of teasing him with it,
And calling me baby.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then just like there's so many other good ones to watch, that actually Tara already recommended, like Some Like It Hot, like that's a really good one that I enjoy. And oh my God, you're the only other people who I've ever met who know Bowfinger. So no one I've ever met has ever even heard of that film. So I'm like, yeah.
It was not a hit, and I think that movie, maybe we can have a 2021 renaissance for that, because it deserves more than it got when it came out.
Awesome. Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcasts? I've got them scrolling up here for the folks on Twitch.
Yeah, I've got way too many going on. Thankfully, I'm only a participant in one. Our primary one is Movie Date Night that I do with my now wife, Lauren, where we share movies with each other that we haven't seen before. So we say it's movies to share with the people that you love. Recently, this month we're going to be doing Jewel of the Nile and Romancing the Stone.
Are you going to do them together?
Yeah, as a double feature, because Colin actually recommended it. We were watching it, and Lauren tweeted like, "Oh yeah, we watched this," and Colin's like, "That'd be a great episode." I'm like, "Yeah, it would be." So,
and there's a third one which is not really in the same.
She talked about that. What's
it's
it?
not in the
Roses.
same universe. War of the Roses. It's
War
not
of the Roses,
really in
yeah.
the same universe. It's Michael
it's
Douglas.
The same actors, but yeah, it's not.
Together.
Yeah. And we also have our Fridays game nights where we tell you how to have a fun gaming get together with your friends, including social distancing versions. We usually do different topics. Like recently this month, we're doing games that you've been playing, Ron, or games that people have been playing, Ron, over time. And we do escape room reports in there too. So whenever we can go on to an escape room, have you guys done any escape rooms, by the way?
Nope.
I've done one. Actually.
Wait, you didn't do that with
I wasn't with you.
Oh, okay.
No, I wasn't with you when you did that.
Oh, well.
I've
done one.
If you guys are up to it, we need to do a virtual escape room together. I think you guys would be a fun crew to go through some puzzles with.
That'd be super fun.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have the Mortal Kombat that I'm part of, where we do bracketed arguments about which is best or which is worst. Recently, we had the overrateds, 80s films that are overrated. My picks for that were Big, The Land Before Time, and Goonies.
How dare you?
I don't think
The Land Before Time. How dare you?
I'm a Dino Boy through and through, but I don't think that film really stands up over time. I think it's a boring film. And considering the fact that they made so many, they stopped using Roman numerals. They're like, listen, kids don't know what XIIV means anymore. Let's just call it what it is. And I will say this, in one of The Land Before Times, they actually have an encounter with aliens from another world. So I'm just putting that out there.
Wow,
they jump the shark hard.
Yeah. Was that a Don Bluth thing originally?
Originally, yeah. And then he didn't sign on for any of the sequels, I don't think.
Right. We need to do like a Don Bluth block or something, because I want to rewatch The Pebble and the Penguin.
Thank you. I love that
Troll
one.
in Central Park.
Yeah.
Rock-a-Doodle-Doo.
I love Rock-a-Doodle.
You've never seen these?
No, I love it. I love Rock-a-Doodle.
I've never heard of them. I've heard of Land Before Time, which I've seen the first one.
Okay, well, just this morning I was watching All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah, Don Bluth was like the anti-Disney guy.
Like, yeah, I know who he is.
I can't believe you haven't seen any of these. But
it's partially that I at some point lost my, and this is true for Pixar also, I lost my tolerance for talking animal movies, and I lost it somewhere around
All Dogs Go to Heaven. That one too.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah,
that's
earlier.
a Don Bluth.
Yeah. I just don't watch any of them.
No,
so it's not yeah.
I'm gonna make you watch at least one at some point for this podcast.
I definitely recommend listening. I definitely recommend listening to at least the Over 80s tournament, because it's so much fun just to listen to friendships dissolve over people tearing each other's movies apart.
The number one question passed back and forth was, who hurt you?
This movie hurt me. All right. Well, thank you again so much for coming on, Greg.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah, very fun. Thank you to everyone on our Twitch stream. Thank you to the people who followed while we were here. I appreciate you all showing up for this very first and very experimental thing that we just tried out here. There were some fun moments already just from the top. So thanks for dealing with us and working with us through those technical difficulties. You can find us online. We are on Twitter and Instagram at IWYTWT. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/IWYTWT. We're on all the places where you get your podcasts, and you can find our website, which is IWYTWT.com. I am online individually at Catharticus on Twitter. Colin, where are you at?
I am at Cullen Munch.
Gregory, what are your socials?
I don't have any personal ones, but my podcasts are at Movie Date Night and at Game Friday and at Mortal Kombat Pod.
Awesome,
and then y'all can find me somewhere that's green.
Exactly. Wonderful.
I officially love you now. I was like, oh, she's nice and I love her, but that was fantastic.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a callback. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us on the stream and on the podcast. And you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.